In the violent, unpredictable world of Squid Game, where betrayal and bloodshed are often the path to survival, one character stood apart. Cho Hyun Ju, also known as Player 120, didn't kill for sport. She didn't manipulate or scheme. She protected. She sacrificed. She led with strength and humanity. Played by the actor Park Gyu-young, Hyun Ju emerged in seasons 2 and 3 as a fan favorite, not just for her combat skills as a former Special Forces soldier, but for her deep sense of justice, empathy, and courage. She helped deliver a baby. She defended allies. She risked her life, ultimately giving it, to help others escape the deadly game. But let's imagine something different. What if Hyun Ju had survived? And what if the authorities then reviewed her actions under South Korean law? Would she be seen as an accomplice? As someone who took part in a criminal conspiracy? Could she actually be prosecuted or imprisoned for doing what she did? In this episode, we'll break down her background, analyze her actions, and explore what real-life Korean courts would do with someone like Hyun Ju. Because sometimes, even heroes have to answer to the law. Cho Hyun Ju entered Squid Game with a powerful backstory. Once a proud member of the South Korean military, she was dishonorably discharged after coming out as a transgender woman. Stripped of her title, cut off from her family, and facing discrimination, she was left without a safety net in a society that wasn't ready to support her. With limited options and the hope of funding gender-affirming surgery, Hyun Ju joined the game. But from her very first appearance, it was clear she wasn't like most contestants. Where others panicked, she stayed calm. Where others fought for personal gain, she protected the vulnerable. Hyun Ju took on the role of an unofficial team leader, especially for players like Jun Hee, Gum Ja, and Gi Hun. She taught others how to survive, not just physically, but emotionally. In Season 3, Hyun Ju even helped deliver Jun Hee's baby in the middle of the arena, defended allies from attackers, and participated in a secret plan to bring down the game's creators. Her death, stabbed by Myung Gi while trying to open the exit door for others, was one of the most heartbreaking moments in the show. But she left a legacy of loyalty, strength, and sacrifice. Unlike many other characters in Squid Game, Hyun Ju never murdered anyone. Her record during the games is remarkably clean. She never killed, even when provoked or attacked. She defended fellow players, especially Jun Hee and Jum Ja, using only the force necessary to protect them. She participated in a rebellion against the game's organization, helping coordinate a plan to escape and expose the truth. She helped deliver a child and protected that child at great personal risk. She physically disarmed or restrained attackers, but never used lethal force. If anything, the most controversial act she committed was breaking the game's rules by helping others escape and sabotage the game's operations. But those actions were made with clear moral purpose, to save innocent lives and stop a massive criminal conspiracy. Under normal conditions, such actions might be considered illegal. But in a death game setting, the situation is far more complex. She didn't act for power. She didn't act for profit. She acted for people. And that matters when it comes to real-world legal consequences. Let's break down how South Korean law would treat someone like Hyun Ju. First, and most importantly, she didn't kill anyone. Under Article 250 of the Criminal Act, murder carries a minimum of 5 years in prison and can go up to life. But that doesn't apply here. Next, use of force or self-defense. According to Article 21, an act of violence isn't punishable if it was committed to protect oneself or another person from an unlawful and immediate threat. Since all of Hyun Ju's physical interventions happened while defending others, this clause would protect her fully. What about conspiracy or rebellion? If prosecutors argued that she participated in a criminal conspiracy to bring down the game's infrastructure, they could cite Article 114, which targets organized crime or group activity aimed at disrupting lawful order. But here's the catch. Squid Game itself was an illegal organization. If Hyun Ju helped expose it, similar to a whistleblower, then she wouldn't be punished for rebellion. In fact, she'd be protected under whistleblower laws. And what about helping someone escape or avoid punishment? If the game was proven to be a criminal enterprise, then helping people escape would not be a crime. It would be rescue from illegal captivity. Bottom line, South Korean law focuses heavily on intent and harm caused. And Cho Hyun Ju's intent was always to save, not destroy. Let's look at real-world comparisons. In 2010, a South Korean woman helped rescue undocumented migrants who were being held in a human trafficking ring. Though she entered private property to free them, the court ruled her actions were justified by necessity and did not constitute a crime. In 2018, a security guard who used non-lethal force to protect a bus driver from an attacker was briefly investigated for assault, but was cleared under Article 21, self-defense law, because the force used was proportional. And in 2020, a transgender military officer who was forcibly discharged after gender-affirming surgery was later ruled to have been unfairly treated by military policy. That decision opened wider debates about LGBTQ+ rights in Korean law and shows growing awareness of discrimination and injustice. If someone like Hyun Ju, an ex-soldier, trans woman, and defender of others, was brought to trial today, courts would likely interpret her actions within the context of morality, proportionality, and human rights. Her story aligns far more with whistleblowers and rescuers than with criminals. Let's be conservative and ask, what's the absolute worst-case scenario? Suppose prosecutors somehow charged Hyun Ju with obstruction for breaking the game's rules, trespassing if she entered a restricted game area, aiding escape if helping others flee was deemed illegal. Each of these, individually, carries small penalties. Obstruction, max 1 year or a fine. Trespassing, up to 3 years, usually suspended. Aiding escape, up to 5 years if in prison settings, but not if escaping illegal captivity. Even if you stacked all charges, and even if she was found guilty, her total penalty would likely max out at 2 to 3 years, and that's generous. But realistically, any court would dismiss these charges citing self-defense, rescue from illegal activity, humanitarian intent, lack of personal gain. If prosecuted at all, Hyun Ju would more likely receive probation, a suspended sentence, or no sentence whatsoever. Aggravating factors, broke game protocols, but these were illegal anyway. Aided an escape operation, possibly unlawful if misinterpreted. Mitigating factors, protected vulnerable individuals, never killed or seriously harmed anyone, had no criminal history. Was herself a victim of systemic discrimination, acted out of selflessness and necessity. The number of mitigating factors vastly outweighs any potential concerns. In fact, Hyun Ju could even be seen as a candidate for state commendation for exposing corruption and preventing harm to others. In the eyes of South Korean law, Cho Hyun Ju would be acquitted of any serious wrongdoing, or in a highly unlikely case, given probation or a symbolic fine. But more realistically, no prison time at all. Her actions were defensive, protective, and morally grounded. Courts would recognize that. Cho Hyun Ju's character was a rare force of good in the violent world of Squid Game. She led with courage, protected the vulnerable, and gave her life so others could live. If she had survived and stood before a real-world court, South Korean law would not punish her. It would recognize her bravery and intent, and understand that her every action was driven by humanity, not harm. So how long would her prison sentence be? 0 years. No bars, no charges, no blame. Because in the end, heroes don't belong in handcuffs. They belong in history.